YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back with some more NFL free agency grades. Got a bunch of these videos already up on the channel, grading a bunch of different signings, and definitely some more to come. Still some big-time free agents out there. Once really the big wave of free agency goes through, we'll kind of talk about the top teams or the biggest losers of free agency as well. Maybe my favorite signings, sleeper signings, things like that after we get through this first wave. So a lot ahead here, and then we'll get into our NFL draft content. So join us for all that. Subscribe, smash that like button. Follow our Twitter for constant NFL talk, breaking news, and everything there. Check out walkthemock.com. You see underneath me, there's a link in the comments. If you're going to sign up, use code GOATHOUSE. A lot of member mock drafts coming soon, and we've already done quite a few. But yeah, again, if you sign up, use code GOATHOUSE. Link in the description comments for anything you need. Here's our Twitter. Always talking, breaking news, everything going on. Isaiah Wilson being a rascal is always up to something. So see what the Dolphins got themselves into. Justin Simmons. So this is really an extension. They tagged him. They kind of reworked it, made a deal out of it. And the highest paid safety in football. 4 years, $61 million, $15.25 million. Knew he wanted around that 15 range, but he beats it by a decent amount there. This one's tough, because you see all, this free agency, this first glance, this free agency, players are getting a lot cheaper. John Johnson, safety, an example, got 11-something million. So they're getting a lot cheaper than expected. We'll talk about Anthony Harris, got way cheaper than expected. But I don't know if that applies to Justin Simmons. That's why maybe first time you see this, you're like, oh, it might be an overpay because look where the safety market's at. But looking at this as a long-term deal for the Broncos, locking it in. I know John Johnson wasn't a one-year deal. I think that was just a really good deal for the Browns. But, a lot of other guys are getting one-year deals, and that's, you're going to get less on a one-year deal. Those guys want that one-year deal so they can hit the market next year where the cap goes up. So a long-term deal for Justin Simmons to stay in Denver, but he was already staying in Denver this year. So getting his actual value made sense here. And you're able to spread out the cap if needed. We'll see those exact details. We don't have those yet, but that doesn't really affect my grade. Just the value of the contract overall. Yeah, it's a tough one because it's a lot of money. I do really like Justin Simmons, though. Feels like he's getting better. One of the better safeties in football. A lot of responsibility playing center field. Single high free a ton for the Broncos. I'll give it an A. It's a lot of money, but I like locking up, maybe the best free safety in football here. I actually think he is the best free safety in football, right there with Jesse Bates. I guess it's debatable, but I like Justin Simmons a lot. And, they locked him up 4 years here, and the Broncos are set. Just such an important piece of that defense. Surprising they cut Kareem Jackson, but because how he plays up in the box so much, in the backfield almost, it just makes – there's just so much responsibility for like Justin Simmons, and he does such a great job, covering pretty much the whole field back there. Next, JuJu Smith-Schuster, a little bit of a surprise. Started to feel the longer, I was saying that the other day, the longer JuJu sat there, the more likely he could go back, even though I don't think we were quite there yet, but it happened. And that's because, the Steelers were kind of letting the market settle. The longer guy sits, especially the receiver position, the price goes down. And the Steelers were able to reach a deal here. He actually turned down less from the Ravens, $13 million offer from the Ravens, $11 million offer from the Chiefs. Apparently the Eagles were in there. I don't know the price on that. But yeah, surprising that he turned down. A little surprising, another one. At first glance, it's a little surprising. He turned down the Ravens, a good team, for $13 million. The Chiefs playing with Mahomes for $11 million to go back to Steelers. Pretty loyal, and he is loyal, but I think the main thing here is sign the 1-year deal now. It doesn't really matter where you go, pretty much. He prefers his team, obviously, over other teams. So if you're going to sign a 1-year deal because you're looking to get paid next year like a lot of these other guys, it would make sense to go back to Steelers. So, yeah, these guys realize that they can't get their 15, 16 for him, 15, 16, 17 maybe if we're pushing it per year that they thought they would. Next year, they think they can get it when the cap space goes back up. So they're going to sign a 1 year, so you might as well go back to your team. So he is loyal. Just I think it's a big part of it is that I think and it very well could go back to the Steelers again. Steelers will have the cap space in the future. This is a lot of these in this video are tough to grade. Sometimes they're real easy, but these are tough to grade because a lot goes into it. I mean, I know the range here. First glance, JuJu Smith-Schuster, his value is well in the double digits per year. So get him $8 million, get your guy back. It's got A+ written all over it. There is something small though here that the Steelers, this is kind of their move here. Now they're trying to figure out a way to dump Steven Nelson, to afford this, and it's even cheap for JuJu Smith-Schuster. This is their move, and you look at, great receiver, a lot of upside. It is only a 1-year deal, so upside doesn't really have any, factor to it, but they're fine at the receiver position. Even though JuJu makes them better, they're fine. It's not going to make or break their team. Protecting Roethlisberger, opening up running lanes, the actual running game, which was pretty poor last year. Those things being so poor, all that together was really what affected this team. And, look on the defensive side, the cornerback play wasn't that great. Strong safety play wasn't that great. Bud Dupree was great when he was in there. Steelers defense is better with him. They lost him. So those things might make or break the team. So their big move is getting back JuJu Smith-Schuster while losing all those big pieces. Could they have put it to somewhere that's going to be more of a make or break thing? So there actually is a small negative to it. It's such tremendous value that I still give it an A. I'm just not going to give it an A+ for that reason, but I still give it, the second best possible grade because it is, $8 million. It's tremendous value. It's ridiculous, but there's a reason behind all these 1-year deals. So yeah, definitely somewhat surprising. If we would have got to like Sunday, I probably would have been like, he's going to go back to Steelers because the longer somebody sits, that's usually what happens there. But yeah, it's just the 1-year deals this year. Going to be a lot of free agents next year. Riley Reiff goes to the Bengals, 1 year, $7.5 million, so he just gets just as much as JuJu, which is surprising. So it's very tough to improve your offensive line. You got to try to find guys that are slightly better. And they can find guys that are much better in the draft, Bengals. Hopefully a guy like Penei Sewell drops to them. Even Rashawn Slater is pretty solid. But yeah, they find a guy like Riley Reiff here from the Vikings, who actually played a little better last year than he did the year before. 2 years ago was disastrous. I do like the idea of him playing right tackle. It could be a little better. It's kind of a mystery. But I guess it's better than what they had. 1 year, 7.5. Not a whole bunch of risk. 7.5 is a decent amount of money. This is tough. It's just still kind of a below average offensive lineman, but it's still better at the same time. I will say, if they do land Penei Sewell and they play Riley Reiff at right tackle and Jonah Williams moves to guard where I think he's better, the offensive line actually looks a lot better. It actually looks a lot better from really just adding, I know they add Riley Reiff, but really just adding one guy in Penei Sewell, because Riley Reiff isn't much different than what you already had. It's better, but it's not much different. But it's just moving guys around and getting a stud player like Penei Sewell, it just makes it that much better. It makes everything else look better. So that could make the signing a little better. Sometimes with these 1 year deals, though, it's like, did you have to spend the 7.5? You almost could have had the same amount of outcome with a cheaper player. Again, he is a little better, so it's a tough one. I'll give him a B. There's some upside at right tackle there. The idea of it. Let's see what they do in the draft. A lot of these ones are up in the air. Anthony Harris, another Viking guy, getting signed by the Eagles. 1 year, $5 million. This one is not up in the air. Anthony Harris, I actually thought would be a guy that would get overpaid because 2019 he played elite. He might have played like in 2019 alone. I think he was the best safety in football. Last year, 2020, he actually struggled a little bit. So I was worried some team was going to pay him just purely off 2019. He was going to get 11 or 12 million. I thought there would be an overpay. I thought where his value was 7 to 8.5, maybe max range. 7, 8 made sense. Would have been fine with 8. You get $5 million from the Eagles. That's a really good deal. He sat around a little bit. Everybody's market went down. Safety market went down. But he's also fine with the, he may not him, but a lot of these guys, well, maybe him, may have turned down more money on a 2-year deal, 3-year deal, just a little bit more money because there's more upside with less money and with a 1-year deal because you can get a lot more money next year because the salary will go back up. So that could be the reason for things like this, but this is tremendous value. But then you wonder, it's in the A range because it's tremendous value. But then you wonder, how does he fit? Why did he succeed more in 2019 versus 2020? And what kind of defense the Eagles are going to run? They get, that Colts tree, Jonathan Gannon. He actually, coached with the Colts last year. He actually coached under Mike Zimmer and the Vikings before that. So that kind of tells you which direction they're going to go with. Last year the Colts and the Vikings ran a very similar defense, so it was a lot more split safety look for the Vikings, where Anthony Harris struggled a little more. Where the previous year you saw him more, in the middle of the field a little more often. So I think they're going to go that route. So I feel a lot more comfortable there. It's a fit. I think it's going to be more like a Viking-style defense rather than the Colts. Maybe a good mixture. But I think they got a good plan here. It's a really good value, so I'm going to give an A+ here for Anthony Harris to the Eagles. Eagles, we're still under the impression that they have negative cap space, but restructures. There's a ton of restructures this year, and it's common even every year even when a very few of them happen, that we don't really hear about the news. It's not something the team's looking to push out, because news like Anthony Harris signing, the agent pushes it out there because he wants everyone to know, my guy signed, I got my guy signed, this is how much money we made. Restructures isn't really getting pushed out by anybody. Nobody's caring, to share that information. So I'm sure the Eagles restructured some more contracts, or the ones that we do know about that they were working on. The details just aren't out there, so no one's really. It's all speculation, assumption. But so that would be the reason that they definitely had positive cap space when they made this signing. That's for sure, because the NFL wouldn't approve it otherwise. Chris Carson goes back to the Seahawks. Thought maybe he would go elsewhere. 2-year, $14.62 million is another one of those void deals. So it's really 3-year. The actual contract will show 3-year, $24.62 million, $625, I think it is. But essentially, it's going to be a 2-year deal. And he's really only under contract to be on the field for 2 years. So I'm calling it that, 2 years, $14.62. The purpose of the void year is to push money around to save money for the Seattle Seahawks. $7.31 million per year. Another tough one to grade, because, you guys, if you've been with us for a while, I like Chris Carson. I'm a big Chris Carson guy. Very few power running backs can succeed in today's NFL. They bring that extra to their game, and Chris Carson's one of those guys. So you got to respect that. Elijah, key piece of Seahawks are better with him. Really wears the defense out, really, establishes the run to open up the pass game. Big part of their game, makes Russell Wilson's job easier, everyone's job easier. So he's a really big piece. And $7.31 million, for him, sounds about right. Normal markets, normal off seasons, you'd probably get a little more. This off season, maybe you'd think a little less. It is a 2-year deal though, so 1-year deal. It would be a little less. So this is probably, about right here, right now, for a 2-year deal in this market, I would say, for his talents. The problem is the injury concern. That's why they pass on the tag. It's because it's a good value for him. 1 year, not a lot of risk, but is it worth it if he's going to get hurt? It's worth it for his talent. Is it worth it if he gets hurt? And this is pretty much around the same thing here. So it's tough. I'll give it a B+. The injury concern kind of weighs it down from an A. B+, obviously still a really good grade. He fits this system. Is a guy that feels like can make or break this team. Really, they're not gonna. If he's out, they have no shot at the Super Bowl. It's not like that, But it does feel, a guy that makes them significantly better when he's in, when he's on, when he's healthy. So, I'll give it a B+ here. If he gets hurt, this looks pretty bad because they weren't able to make the other, because they need pass rush bad. They need corners. They're working on getting KJ Wright back. Offensive line, forgot that. Yeah, they need another receiver probably. That they do need other things. So if he gets hurt, it's going to, the cap hit's probably not that high this year, but it's still money here. But overall, pretty good. Good to get that guy back. Kind of surprised he's back. Thought he would go elsewhere. But yeah, the longer guys sit, the more likely it is, because teams are starting to realize, maybe we could get our guy back. We didn't expect to because it thought it was going to be too pricey. Next, we got Phillip Lindsay, another running back. The Texans. Texans they're full of surprises. 1 year, another 1 year, $3.25 million. They add him to David Johnson and Mark Ingram. That's a hell of a running back room. A lot of running backs. Feels like every move they make, all these 1-year deals, it kind of feels like a rebuild thing, and that, Deshaun Watson usually is, that type of player is not involved in rebuild. And then you sign Tyrod Taylor. It's like, all right, pretty damn good insurance guy. But then you trade for Ryan Finley, and it's like, okay, what's going on? And then you had three running backs that can start, starting caliber running backs pretty much. And like, all right, it's a run-first team now. So it's definitely really interesting. They are probably trying to get compensatory picks in the future out of this because, all these guys are going to be free agents next year. And if they lose them, they can possibly get the next year. So 2023, they can possibly, not guaranteed, get compensatory picks depending on their contract and the cancellation process. So that could be just what they're going for. It's hard to figure out what their exact plan is, and that's why, all their signings are tough to grade because the plan kind of means something. At the end of the day, again, they got David Johnson, they got Mark Ingram, Phillip Lindsay. I like a lot, always underrated. Realistically could be their best running back at 1 year, $3.25 million. So, I like it just in terms of the value, in terms of the player. They don't have this type of running back, even though they have two other solid ones. They don't really have this guy. So overall, I like it. Again, I'm not thrilled about their plan, mainly because I can't figure it out. But yeah, this signing alone, pretty solid. 2 pages of these here. Matt Skura goes to the Dolphins, 1 year, $1.75 million. It's cheap. They got a center. Sure, he had some struggles last year. So that, that it's tough. Couldn't get it at a completely terrible grade because it is cheap. And, center, it's one of those teams not going to value the center that much. Yeah, I wouldn't be paying big money to a center. If you could find a guy, that's the thing. I always say, if you can find a guy that can keep somebody in front of him, because it's, you're just worried about straight in front of you there, and they can snap the ball. That's key word, though, because he struggled to snap the ball last year. So that's why I'm not really thrilled with it, but cheap will do for now. Jets get LaMarcus Joyner, 1 year, $4.5 million. Gave it a B-. If you're playing him in the right spot, he can be a lot better than where he was playing with the Raiders. I thought he'd get a little cheaper. It's Anthony Harris gets 0.5 more, $500K more. So those things like that are surprising. So I thought it'd be a little cheaper, especially in this market with a 1 year deal. And there's no guarantee. He just spent the last few years playing slot corner and struggled quite a bit. So I think they'll play him at safety. People are talking about the Jimmy Ward role. They have Ashton Davis to play more of the Jaquiski Tart role. Marcus May, so that's interesting. He got the tag. He was pissed about getting the tag. I get the impression he's not going to play under it. The two sides were trying to reach a long-term deal, and they weren't even close last summer. Not even close. So could he be traded? Interesting. This is only a 1 year deal, so don't have to trade May, obviously, and don't want to. He's a really good player. They get Dan Feeney, 1 year, $3.5 million from the Chargers. Guy who struggled, still young. I think just needed a change of scenery, different units. And I like the scheme for him. So this could be, in terms of the player, the way he's been playing, not good. So maybe the B+ a little surprising, but I like the chance here. I like the chance you take. 3.5 is not super expensive. Again, change of scenery. I think he's got some upside still. Not too much out there, So you get a young guy, I think, in that group. I think that's solid as well. Giants get Reggie Ragland. This is really cheap. They could use another inside linebacker. This is a guy that could potentially give them some good snaps. Potentially, maybe even start. It could be ideal to get somebody better, but very cheap for that. So I'll give that an A. They got Mike Glennon. I gave that a D. The only reason I didn't give it an F is because it's not. It's pretty cheap, but Mike Glennon should be cheap. I just don't see the point. I just don't see the point of messing around with Mike Glennon. It just feels like they get a guy where for Daniel Jones doesn't have to worry. He's for sure the guy. Colt McCoy coming in last year actually he was pretty solid. Mike Glennon just never looked solid. I don't even know why it's one of those, why do you even bother? I really think they got a guy to, make Daniel Jones, make it known that he's the guy. I think you can get somebody better that fits better. He doesn't even fit with like a Daniel Jones. That happens a lot, though, around the NFL. Like, you think you would try to find a quarterback. Obviously, you want the best quarterback that you can find as your backup first. It's not Glennon. Second, you think you'd find, someone that kind of fits that's, similar. They're both lanky. That's about it. I gave it a D. Don't like that one. Colts get Isaac Rochelle, 1 year, $2.5 million. It's another tough one because young guy, solid guy. I think that's probably right around good contract, maybe solid value there. 1 year, $2.5 million. What's their plan for him though? I kind of, Danico Autry they lost, and he played well for them. The problem was they played him, at defensive end at times, and you have to go against tackles. Was he fast enough? But still was pretty productive. Are they about to do the same thing with Rochelle? I would like him better. I would like him better as almost like a DeForest Buckner rotation guy, because it's okay to spend the $2.5 million on a solid rotation guy, behind a great player like that, or somebody who can obvious passing downs. Both Buckner and Rochelle. You have two of pretty much the same style player. So I'm not really thrilled of the idea I have that they're going to play him at defensive end, because I'm not a fan of him there. But good young player. I give it a B because he's a good young player. 1 year, $2.5 million is still good. I just wish it just still feels like they need two starting edge rushers right now. So we'll see if they figure something out. Surprised the Colts. I thought this was kind of their year to really complete this roster. But there's still some good free agents out there. Saints get P.J. Williams. Yeah, another somewhat confusing one. 1 year, $2.3 million. The only thing it's not like a terrible grade. Close, but is because I do feel like it's an insurance policy kind of, which I guess they needed because they cut Jenkins and they need to get a guy, for cheap. If you're going to do that, go for the veterans minimum, especially with your cap situation. Go for the $1.075 million guy, that's just equal as talented as P.J. Williams. That also is better at outside corner than slot corner because they have Chauncey Gardner-Johnson slot corner. P.J. Williams is a little better in the slot corner position than outside for sure. So it didn't make sense, why you mess around with this. I feel like they're going to draft a cornerback, and so they did need a kind of an insurance. They've been linked to Richard Sherman, but that would make this signing even more confusing. This doesn't make sense. The more I'm talking about, too, why not just sign the guy for the minimum? It's the same effect. You really don't want to have P.J. Williams starting. You really don't. You want to draft a guy. They haven't got a receiver yet either, so maybe they go receiver in the first round. You can find a starter in the second round, of course, too. So, there's some corners I really like for them in this draft, end of the first round. I feel like that could be their angle, and it just doesn't make sense. You think they would go for the veteran minimum since they didn't have a lot to work with. I really like the Jameis Winston contract a lot, but this one was a little confusing. It's not like it's a dagger because it's $2.3 million, and that's why I didn't really give it a D. But the more I'm talking about, the more confusing it is, even though it's a smaller contract. Some more here. Bills get Levi Wallace, 1 year, $1.75 million. It's a pretty good deal. Solid young corner. Looked a little better the first year he was playing a lot than the last couple of years. Or last year. B+ for him, though. It's decent value. The only problem here I have with the Bills, they were kind of winning the pre-free agency process, getting all their key guys back, but they're really not. They're staying exactly the same, which isn't really ideal because other teams are getting better. You want to get better if you can at all times, especially if you're facing, if you're trying to get to be that actual contender, which they were close last year. So you wish, some of these smaller contracts, wish they would just go bigger on a spot. But overall, it's pretty solid value. We'll see if they can make some moves. Browns go Malik Jackson, 1 year, 4.5. This one happened recently. Malik Jackson's been overhyped for some time. He had some decent years, one really solid year. It's been some time, for him. The Eagles weren't starting him last year. He coming in on obvious passing down where you expect him to get production. Really wasn't productive, was hurt the year before. And that's playing with a really good supporting cast too. So it's not like, I'm sure playing next to Myles Garrett and those guys is fantastic, but he was playing, along some really good guys there with the Eagles. I think he's going to be used just for obvious passing downs because him and Sheldon Richardson on the field at the same time on, early downs doesn't make too much sense to me. Sheldon Richardson and Andrew Billings kind of makes sense. More of a nose tackle in there with Sheldon Richardson. So it's kind of an obvious passing down guy. You gave him $4.5 million. It's not a whole bunch. He does have, we're kind of still waiting for this guy to break out to what we expected him to be, but that hasn't happened. People keep expecting it. It just hasn't happened. So, still gave it a B- because the talent's still in there. It's gonna help on the D line. It's not overly expensive. But at the same time, you did pay $4.5 million to a guy that's probably going to be an obvious passing down guy. So there's positives and negatives there. Browns also got Anthony Walker Jr. 1 year, $3.5 million. Felt like he played better a couple years ago rather than last year. But yeah, low risk here. They needed a linebacker. There wasn't too much out there. I wish they would have went harder for a guy like Jayon Brown. But yeah, they have this young talent here. I'm not going to wow you with this talent, but yeah, give him a B+ for that one. Dolphins get Brendan Scarlett. Another Vince Bagel type of guy. 1 year, 1.12. And I kind of like that, because I'd rather them keep Kyle Van Noy, to be honest, if I'm being completely honest, but that's over and done with. But yeah, another guy like that I thought actually showed flashes with the Texans, Scarlett, that is. And that scheme wasn't really built to have success from their actual edge rushers. So not talking about J.J. Watt. I'm talking about the actual edge rushers because he played D-line for them. So I think the change of scenery, in a Flores scheme where I think he can fit, because he may be able to drop back too. I think it's, very small signing, very low risk. He actually could break out a little bit. Nothing crazy. Jets get Tyler Kroft, 1 year, $2 million. Give him a B for that. Yeah, nothing. A lot of these are small signings. Need to stay healthy, but they definitely need another tight end in there. But they could have went a little bigger, but a lot of guys off the market, so they had a tough time. Another tight end, Panthers go Dan Arnold, 2 years, $6 million. When the Cardinals started to value the tight end a little more, he started to break out a little bit. Panthers, a team that doesn't value the tight end a whole bunch, I think a little more in the Cardinals. Going to play that Manhurts role there, so I think he's going to be more productive than him. So it just depends on how much they use him. But 2 years, $6 million, 3 per year, it's solid. I think he's kind of improving. He could be a solid player in that system. So a lot of these are just really small signings here, but still waiting on some big signings to happen. They could be going down right now as I'm talking. So those signings, as long as I get the contract details, will be in the next video, most likely tomorrow. And there's a lot of signings that went down days ago that we just don't have the contract details on, so I did not grade yet. But yeah, that's going to do it for this one. A lot of these videos already on the channel. Check them out. Trade scenarios video recently went up, so check that one out as well. But yeah, we'll have you covered rest of the way through free agency, and of course the NFL draft, nonstop NFL content. So hopefully you join us. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.